Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. In this Civ overview, we're going to take a look at the upcoming campaign DLC Battle for Greece and deep dive the Athenians. To be clear, this is not a civilization coming to ranked multiplayer and is instead designed solely for use in the DLC's grand campaign, where you play them for 8 out of the 21 missions battling the Persians. I can't show anything directly from the campaign yet, but we can still look at their tech tree, test out their units, and see what new ideas the devs are playing around with, absent the pressure of ranked gameplay hanging over things. To start simply, where the Spartans were a pure infantry civ, Athenians are categorized as an infantry and naval civ, though they also have great archers as well, being the only of the 3 new civs with either the reskinned Arblaster or hand cannoneer, while also having a lot of small buffs to at least one of these units here, as we'll see. First though, we should probably talk about the Overhauled barracks, as this is officially an infantry civ, and here you have seemingly a full champion, spear, and the new hoplite lines. Things look pretty solid, just missing the new battle drills tech, though that's a bigger deal than it seems, as it's a disguised version of the two-handed swordsman upgrade. What that means is your champion replacement, the Paragon, is missing some attack and bonus damage compared to a regular old champion, and Gambesons is also absent from the DLC, making them worse against archers and skirmishers. Instead, Athenians are pushed hard toward making hoplites, with a civ bonus that those move 15% faster. Of course, the hoplite also has a unique ability where 2 of them in close proximity give each other +1/+1 armor. You then have 2 unique techs that can affect them as well, with one changing their cost from 55 food and 30 gold to 65 food and 20 gold, giving them much better long-term gold value, and is also your most arrow-resistant infantry as well, making them feel like the complete package. Moving on though, let's take a look at their very unique take on a civ bonus, with their policy system at the town center, which essentially gives you the choice of your major civ bonus. There's 3 options to choose from, with each being a solid civ bonus in its own right, but you can only have one policy at a time, and there's an increasing gold cost to switch between them, so you're really encouraged not to change too often. The first policy is selected by default, and it's the economic policy. While this is selected, it has a global effect of making all of your villagers collect resources and build 7% faster, basically giving you a buffed up version of the Romans eco bonus. It's a pretty safe default, and you could easily just leave it on that all game, as it's hard to go wrong with more resources. The second is the naval policy. The picture might seem odd here with the friendly handshake, but in the game files, this policy is called democracy, so it seems they changed the idea of these being government types to the new policy names, while keeping the original pictures. Either way, this one affects your navy and archers by making them cost 15% less gold and produce 15% faster. What makes the decision tricky though is you have to give up your economic policy in order to switch to this. Paying 15% less gold on double archery ranges sounds pretty great in early feudal, until you think about your lost opportunity cost, where it feels like you're probably better off just improving all of your villagers by 7%. To me, the greater benefit of the naval policy is more in helping stretch out a finite amount of gold if you have a major archer or especially naval focus. This does also stack with shipwright, by the way, making your ships considerably cheaper than the standard cost in terms of both wood and gold in this case. The third option is the military policy. With this, your infantry, cavalry, and ramming ship lines train 15% faster and generate gold with each kill. From my own testing, it appears to always be a flat 3 gold per enemy unit if a melee unit of yours lands the final hit. Unfortunately, in this case, despite doing melee damage, the onager line does not count, or that would be a quick way to generate a lot of gold in a trash war. Even still, a post-imperial situation is probably the clearest example of when you would favor this policy, and it's an interesting concept to offer players 3 strong bonuses while being limited to using just 1 at a time, depending on your situation. Maybe as a consequence of having basically 3 bonuses in one, we're already at the final Athenian civ bonus, which is that lumberjacks generate food. I haven't found the exact number for this in the game files, but running a quick test, it seems to be 1 food for about every 10 wood chopped, scaling up with the lumberjack upgrades to maintain that ratio. In feudal age with double bit axe, that ends up yielding about 2.5 food per minute for each lumberjack, or roughly 1 free farmer for every 8 lumberjacks on an efficient wood line. Especially on a water map, where you're probably overweighting villagers on wood already, it's a nice trickle of food without being strong enough to totally ignore farms or fishing altogether. Their team bonus is then even more explicitly water related, letting them research techs at the shipyard 50% faster. Keep in mind, unlike regular AoE2, where the War Galley upgrade improves your demo and fire ships as well, in this DLC, each ship line has their own upgrades, so being able to power through those tech switches is another reason they're just a step ahead of the other 2 DLC civs on water, saving just over 2.5 minutes of research time. So that's the Athenians' bonuses, with faster hoplites, a passive trickle of food, and an important decision to make in how you want to set your town's policy. Next though, let's take a look at the unique unit, the Strategos. Strategos literally means commander, which suggests the role that this is intended to play, though it's a surprisingly good unit in its own right. To start with its special effect, it has a 6-tile aura shown here, giving all nearby military units +1 attack. In this case, all 17 units shown here are affected, and keep in mind +1 attack on archers or skirmishers especially can be a pretty big deal. This is a theme we saw with Spartans as well, where you have a commander giving an aura to encourage mixing different types of units together. But in this case, the unique unit also works completely fine on its own. First off, it costs just 55 food and 25 gold, similar to the swordsman line. But if we look at their stats side by side, you can see it starts with 6 more attack than a Castle Age swordsman, while only giving up 1 pierce armor, albeit with a small quirk of having no bonus damage against buildings or eagles. In Imperial Age, they're again clearly superior to the Athenian Paragon, even with their slightly lower HP. To see how they perform with balanced resources against the Athenian champion line equivalent, the Elite Strategos needs just 4 attacks to take out a Paragon thanks to its incredible damage, while Paragons require 7 attacks in response. So the Strategoi clean up that fight pretty quickly, only losing 2 units in this example. Even against hoplites though, which I'd consider the core Athenian unit, Strategoi can hold their own, and feel like they may be your best performing unit in melee. That said, when we get to the unique techs, we'll see there is an argument the hoplite can be slightly more gold efficient in the long run, and it is faster moving with your civ bonus, so I don't want to completely write them off. The Strategos melee strength also has a bit of a trade-off to note against ranged units, where your equivalent to halberdiers takes 7 shots from reskinned arbalesters, the Strategos takes 13, the Paragon takes 14, and hoplites in the group take 18. At the end of the day though, you're probably not just making the unit for its stats, and instead at least in part for its aura effect, hopefully letting your other units snowball a bit faster. Next though, let's move on to your options for unique techs, which as I've referred to a couple of times can have a pretty big impact on different unit lines, albeit for each age you have to pick between 2 different options and can't take them both. In Castle Age, the first one gives Strategoi an extra +1 aura boost to the attack of melee units and increases their aura radius from 6 to 8. This is slightly confusing, as the regular +1 attack aura applies to all units, including archers, while this one is specifically targeting infantry and cavalry, ideal if you're going for, say, a very hoplite heavy army. The other option gives your skirmishers a +4 charge attack. This has a very long 40-second cooldown, but is good for one big volley that'll punch through most units' pierce armor with 11 pierce attack, or remember 12 pierce attack if you have a nearby Strategos. Either way, there's a clear choice between pumping up your melee or a ranged unit, depending on your preferred army composition. Following this, in Imperial Age, one option again targets hoplites, adjusting their 55 food and 30 gold cost to 65 food and just 20 gold. This gives a real gold efficiency argument for hoplites being your best all-around melee unit, though note the 750 gold cost is going to take a while to break even. The other option again favors the archery range, increasing the speed of your reskinned archer line and hand cannoneers by 10%. Suddenly, their archery range is looking pretty solid, with a nearby Strategos increasing all of these units' attack by 1, potentially now 10% faster movement on 2 of these units, the elite skirmishers optionally having a charge attack, and the naval policy, reducing your archer's cost and training time. So that's their unique techs, and now let's take a stroll through their tech tree, starting with the archers. We kind of just covered this, so we'll keep it short, with the main takeaway that they're a great archer civ if you invest in the right techs. In this case, it's only the cavalry archers that are holding things back, as that's more of the Persians' focus. On the flip side, taking a look at the Athenian infantry, it's also quite strong, with the hoplite line in particular being an obvious core unit, especially if you take advantage of the various ways to enhance it. Remember, with a military policy set at the town center, they generate 3 gold per enemy unit killed, which for a 20 gold unit after unique tech stretches out your gold pretty well. Of course, the spear line is also fully upgraded, and you have the Strategos at the castle both for its aura effect, but also its insane melee damage for a pretty cheap cost. Next, for the stable, it's actually not that bad, with near fully upgraded knights, renamed lancers in the DLC, that are only missing husbandry. Late game, you're really not encouraged to use the stable that much though, with basically just like cavalry and cavaliers missing the final armor. As for their siege, it's not bad, with Athenians just missing the siege ram. Siege engineers for your onagers is great to have as an option, and bombard cannon is of course disabled in the Chronicles DLC for pretty obvious reasons. Next up, for the Navy, it's again a nearly open tech tree, just missing the last upgrade for fire ships. These are one of your galley line counters, though I feel the catapult ship already has that covered in the late game. Remember, all of these techs you see at the shipyard also research faster from your team bonus, and with a naval policy set, your ships cost less gold than anyone else's. Moving on to the temple, here you have everything available. The techs have different names, but this is identical to the regular monastery, with the one exception that you're missing the tech devotion. As for defenses, again, everything is here. Athenians also have all of the eco-techs as well, and outside of cavalry have pretty close to a full tech tree, as it turns out. So to give some final thoughts, what jumps out is Athenians really have a bit of a choose-your-own-adventure style, both in terms of the town center policy choices as well as the unique tech options, which give you the opportunity to really specialize in infantry or ranged units. Remember, while you can change policies at the town center for a price, you can't go back and undo your unique tech choices, which makes those decisions feel meaningful. To me, Athenians lean the most we've ever seen into an aspect of customizing your civilization, which has existed in AoE 3 and 4 when aging up, or especially in picking cards for AoE 3, but was never part of AoE 2, and feels like an experimental new direction. Again, I know it feels a little odd to cover DLC civs that won't be in ranked games, but hopefully even those of you not getting the DLC find it interesting to take a look at the sorts of ideas the devs are playing around with. Faster archers and lumberjacks getting a trickle of food are completely in line with previous bonuses, but the rest strikes me as pushing the boundaries, with Athenians actually being my personal favorite of the new DLC civ designs given the context of the campaign they're played in. That'll do it for this one though. Thanks for watching guys, I'll see you next time.